You were never afraid of the ocean, until it began seeping into your dreams every single night. As soon as your head hits the pillow, you're there in that terrible sunken city beneath the waves, the one that seems to swallow all light, where dark and unknowable things shift in the gloom. And every morning, you can still hear them whisper, "Come to the water, come to the water." This isn't a nightmare. It's SCP-4246, the dreams of the firstborn. And you're not the only one. Thousands of people have dreams like this every night. Most just brush it off. But others are captured by the impossible dream because they're hearing the briny voice of God giving them divine purpose to go to the water. Some of these people start cults based on these so-called prophetic visions. Many of them end up drowning as they try to accept the water's embrace. But why? Official records of the SCP-4246 phenomenon began back in Victorian London, a haven for mystical and occult thinking. The man who opened Pandora's box in this case was Joseph Adler, a high society cultist and leader of the Hermetic Order of Universal Wisdom. Adler became fascinated with his theory that the firstborns, his term for the supposed ancestral race that all of humanity was derived from, lived in some psychic domain beneath the sea, that they could interface with a handful of special dreamers while they slept. He devoted the latter part of his life to speaking with the dreamers and recording their prophetic visions about the great cities under the tides. And in 1920, he decided to use the occult knowledge he'd gathered to conduct a mass astral projection, essentially a psychic journey into the source of the dreamers. And that would be the worst mistake of his life. What they saw destroyed them in a number of ways. Some died of heart attacks immediately. Others went mad and died by each other's hands. Joseph Adler himself would survive for another year after the fact, but he lost his sight during the course of the projection. But in losing one sight, a Foundation researcher who interviewed him in Broadmoor Hospital found that he'd gained another. His brush with SCP-4246 had rendered the blind Adler a potent psychic, capable of immediately determining that the man interviewing him was from some outside force. After explaining his affinity for the depths, and the fact that his unknowable information is transmitted to him by some mysterious tendril, he said to the researcher, "I looked too far, beheld that which no man should ever see. Horrors beyond conception, beyond perception. I looked too far, and something did not appreciate my gaze. Compared to man, the firstborn were as gods. If they could not stop it, what chance have we?" Joseph Adler was found dead in his hospital room the next day. Among his personal effects were a map to what seemed like an uncharted island off in the middle of the ocean. Given the map was scrawled by a blind man, with little detail and no sense of proper scale, it was considered useless and sealed away in the Foundation's archives. It was later cross-referenced with another interesting discovery from a Foundation scientist named Dr. Charles Baker in the 1950s. He noticed that the psychic abilities of people infected by SCP-4246 seemed to have certain delays depending on the location they're being interviewed in. Dr. Baker looked into the matter and made a fascinating discovery. These people were not true psychics. They were having their psychic realizations transmuted to their brain from some extremely powerful outside source. And that source was in the ocean. That's where the map came back in. Within the next few years, Dr. Stefan Gartner began conducting a study of his own, instructing patients afflicted by SCP-4246 to engage in a form of art therapy. What they drew felt oddly familiar to a file they'd sealed away decades before. They were all drawing what seemed like fragments of a map, an island out in the ocean, each one privy to a fraction of the full piece. And when all the pieces were overlaid together with the Adler map, a new path to what may have been the source of SCP-4246 was suddenly clear. In his notes, Stefan wrote the ominous sentence, "As part of my research on SCP-4246-1, I introduced a copy of the map into my weekly interviews and asked if they recognized it. Their reactions ranged from suffocating dread to excitement bordering on euphoria. This is a world that haunts their dreams. But why? Why indeed? When placed against tectonic maps, the new composite Adler map painted a better picture of where these anomalous thought transmitters might be located. It wasn't long before they found one of them in the Pacific Ocean, not far from Easter Island, and dispatched the advanced FSS Ammonite submarine to investigate firsthand. Of course, this would soon go about as well as Joseph Adler's attempt at mass astral projection. As the submarine approached the designated location, the crew began to report strange phenomena like headaches and an unexplainable sense of dread. The submarine's radar detected a large object somewhere down in the waters with it, presumably another submarine. But when they attempted to contact it, they received no reply. Instead, it disappeared from their radar reading. At this point, if they'd just been allowed to return to base, perhaps things wouldn't have escalated. Instead, they were instructed by their superiors to proceed. That's when the radar detected anomalous objects on the seafloor, which the searchlights revealed to be an astounding, impossible megalithic city on the seabed. It was a place of pure darkness, formed out of angles and geometries not present in any city constructed in human history. It was the most incredible breakthrough yet discovered in the SCP-4246 case. So naturally, things were about to get nightmarish. The submarine erupted into mutiny, with the crew members seeming to go insane and attack one another in a violent frenzy, damaging the submarine beyond repair in the process. It didn't take long for only one survivor to remain. The rescue mission was abandoned when Command heard the deranged voice of the surviving crew member in the sinking, doomed submarine warbling out the words, "The rest are dead. Only I remain." While they fought like fools, I saved my strength and bided my time. The last man left standing was near death when I approached. He has joined the others now. The gods speak to me. This isn't a tragedy. It's fate. The Guardian was made to protect their secrets. I have painted myself in the blood of the fallen. I, and I alone, am worthy. The tendrils coil around my heart. This is their love. Please, embrace me. The wreckage of the submarine was never found, nor was the city on the seabed that the Forsaken crew was supposed to have witnessed. However, despite the wreckage and the city being missing, the area didn't cease to be a powerful transmitter for the SCP-4246 phenomenon. When Foundation researchers took other infected individuals to the location, they all had powerful reactions, from lunatic rambling about the people taken to the dreams to inconsolable screaming fits. Another area of interest in the transmitting of these anomalous messages seemed to be a small historic church parish on an island near Denmark. It was where one of the cults had taken hold and seemed to cause an abnormal amount of shipwrecks on the island's coast. Drowning seems almost to be the inevitable fate of someone indoctrinated to a certain degree. As the number of discovered transmission locations grew to 21, the Foundation began to feel concerned about just how wide-ranging the effects of this anomaly might be. Dr. Joan Henrich began to theorize that the locations were sites of dimensional instability, perhaps being manipulated from beyond our own reality. This was shown to have some weight to it, when specially modified Scranton reality anchors were deployed at the sites, causing the emergence of huge shapes made out of a seamless black material that remained for almost 2 minutes before the SRAs were somehow overpowered and destroyed. What was being dealt with here was extremely powerful. These interdimensional objects acted almost as nodes, powering a global network of psychic energy influencing humans en masse. But who was powering such a network, and to what end? The research team was next led to an abandoned research base in Antarctica by some unusual seismic activity. This base was run by the Anerherbe Obscuracorps, a branch of Nazi Germany tasked with locating and capturing anomalies to aid in Hitler's war effort. In true Nazi fashion, they had been obsessively researching what would later become the SCP-4246 case, believing that whoever was sending the transmissions were some kind of master race that they could ally with, in order to take advantage of their tremendous power. But based on the previous cases, you've likely already figured out how that went. The building was filled with spent shell casings and frozen corpses, suggesting that the Nazis in attendance had lost their minds in the process of being exposed to the signal, going mad and killing each other in the process. That's when the Foundation discovered why. A strange structure beneath the research base, seemingly made of the same seamless black material as the markers that emerged at each of the transmission points. Basic testing revealed the corrosive effect that this structure seemed to have on any human minds present, melding them together, causing thoughts and memories to overlap and succumb to the control of some terrible outside force. They found a journal from one of the Nazis once posted at the base, left inside the structure, showing log by log the maddening toll the place had taken on their minds. The last entry in the journal read, "Plans have been set in motion. We will show them what the gods have shown us. The Black City is alive with light. How can they not see them? They will come to understand its beauty, but we cannot return. The Führer will taint it. Nobody can leave this frozen land alive." And evidently nobody did. But the Foundation soon discovered there was, in fact, something still alive here. It just wasn't human. Over the next decade, they continued to expand their search into the structure until they discovered something terrifying and incredible. A giant brain. A brain so powerful, with such incredible, unimaginable psychic capabilities, that its emanating brainwaves may be the root cause of SCP-4246 worldwide, the nerve center of the network, powering every node and every infected individual all across the globe. Drawing on deep knowledge, the Foundation began to theorize that this brain and all the structures and mechanisms of SCP-4246 were actually the result of an ancient and incredibly advanced underwater species known as the Tethians. These beings lived for hundreds of millions of years, and their abilities and technology advanced to the extent that they were seemingly able to abandon their physical forms and exist as a kind of incredible hive mind. How else could they explain the lack of fossil evidence of these incredible creatures? Clearly, it seemed like the only way to find answers was to investigate direct communication, but a two-way conversation with the mother brain would be impossible with current human physiology. This was the logic that kicked off Project Awakened Dreamer. It took people who were already infected by the SCP-4246 phenomenon and surgically transformed them into something even more perfectly designed to receive and transmit the anomalous message. 250% mass increase of the pineal gland, a 400% mass increase of the cerebral cortex, and an estimated 1,200% as many neurons as the average adult human, and an increase in the size of the skull to accommodate the extra brain mass. In order to keep them stable, they remain in a highly confined state, given constant intravenous medication against the bevy of crippling health issues this sorry state has put them in. This led to a rather infamous experiment, where the psychological guardrails around one of these unfortunate subjects were removed. This allowed full communication with the brain beneath the Antarctic structure, with the subject saying, "I am lost among the tendrils, and no longer struggle for air, cold and numb, but comfortably so. I hear my mother. She calls me home. Home, she sings to me, not songs of words or even sound, but light and color so brilliant. Home, home, back to the gardens of my ancestors. I am with my sisters. As long as we have each other, we can be safe, be silent, be simple and without light. The song grows dim, but there is security in the darkness. Be simple and without light, or the beast will find us." The resulting psychic blast caused every infected person in the world to experience a simultaneous seizure. All the Foundation staff within range were knocked unconscious and awoke with heads full of forbidden knowledge. The structure around the mother brain warped and shifted, reformatting into a new configuration as a result of the communication. It was a sign that nothing like this should ever be attempted again. But it did also give them the key to cracking this whole thing open, because it wasn't just all of the infected people across the globe who reacted. It was also every squid, octopus, and lesser-known cephalopod in the world. Private and public aquarium owners globally reported all their cephalopods acting strangely, all at the same time, facing in a peculiar direction, the direction of the mother brain in Antarctica. That's when they realized the Tethians didn't die out or disappear. They evolved into modern-day cephalopods. They've been here right under our noses the whole time, and they always would be. This is one of the few anomalies to be given the secondary class Archon, meaning it would simply cause more trouble to try to get rid of this phenomenon than to let it ride and just attempted to mitigate the damage. All the Foundation can do is suppress knowledge of the prophetic visions instilled by SCP-4246 to ensure that the dreamers never wake. For if they do, who knows what else is lurking down there in the depths, waiting to wake up too. Now check out a Sea Snail's Fantasy, SCP-1867, a Gentleman, or Top 16 Ocean SCPs that will terrify you, for more.